welcome back to my channel, and if you're new here, hi, hello, it's great to meet you. My name is Mira Scarlet, and I am a cosplayer, a seamstress, and a live streamer who enjoys making costume and clothing from scratch. Today I have decided to go against my own word and attempt to finish my pride dress before the end of Pride Month. Today is June 29th, so less than 48 hours. Awesome. So I told myself and Twitter that I wasn't going to stress about it, but after thinking it over for a little bit and taking into account that I do already have it mocked up, like the hardest part I've done a mock-up of. So I decided at the end of the day, why not give it a go? So the original idea for my pride dress was to kind of base it off of the Selkie puff dress. However, I don't really care for the short bandeau top, so I instead have decided to lean more in the direction of the Selkie Parliament style dress, which has a cupped bodice that sits at the waistline versus right underneath your boobies. If I can somehow make this whole dress, film the process and the final results, edit the video, and get all of that done and completed and uploaded before the end of June, then yay, awesome, wonderful, fantastic, that's the goal. But if not, and you are seeing the video with an upload date sometime in July, then you'll know that I didn't quite meet that goal. But at the end of the day, that's okay, because we celebrate the gay all year round, and Pride doesn't have to be constrained just to 1 month, and neither does Halloween, so don't let anyone ever tell you otherwise. So with that being said, let's begin. Alright, so for the main part of this dress, I'm using this beautiful, lovely rainbow organza that I got from Fab Curate. If you guys have seen my previous video about that, then you already know about this lovely fabric. For the inner skirts, I'm also going to be using organza. I've got this pink and blue organza that I got from Joann's. It was part of their Casa Galleria collection, so I actually got it on a decent clearance. So this is going to be used for the inner skirts. I have 7 yards of the rainbow fabric, and then I have 3 yards each of the blue and peachy pink colored fabric. I have no idea if this is going to be enough for this project, but I guess we will find out in the end. For the bodice of this dress, I am using Orange Lingerie's bodice pattern. It is the Esplanade. See, I have to find out the pronunciation. One moment. Let me make sure I'm saying this right.
Esplanade.
Esplanade. I keep saying it wrong. I keep saying it wrong. For the bodice of this dress, I am going to be using Orange Lingerie's Esplanade bra pattern. And shout out to Official Hambly for mentioning this pattern in her videos. It can be used as a base for so many lovely dresses. So I highly recommend picking one up on Etsy. You can digitally download it and have it ready to go immediately, as long as you have a printer, that is. With this pattern, I just chose my bra size, and I ended up making a mock-up and just basically assessed any fit issues that I had and made sure I could make it fit really nice, because it's going to be supported by the puff sleeves here that I ended up drafting myself. So once the bodice was nice and fitted, I just drafted these huge puffy sleeves here. For the inner skirts, I just used a typical circle skirt calculator. You can just Google it and find one. I believe the Mood one is the one that I typically use, but I just followed the instructions. All you have to do is input your waist measurement, decide what length that you want your skirt to be, and then it'll just do some math and find out the radius for you. For the outer skirt, however, I doubled the radius to give it that extra poofiness factor, because the outer skirt is going to need to be the poofiest layer of them all. So it not only does it need to be a full skirt, but it needs to have a wider radius so you have more room to gather and fit it in at the waist so it'll extend out and be nice and poofy. And I might use multiple full skirts depending on how many I'm going to be able to get out of my rainbow fabric, because I want it to be very poofy. Originally, I had planned it to be really long and flowy, but I think that I'm going to wear something shorter a lot more often, and I just think it's going to look a lot cuter. So yeah, I am opting for the, what is it? I don't know if it's short, maybe midi length or T length. I don't know. Somewhere above the knees. We'll see. I currently have my skirts measured at about 20 inches long. All right, and now that I know what patterns that I am using and everything, I'm going to end up taking apart this mock-up so that I can get my pattern from this, and the next step is going to be cutting everything out. So Yay!
Get ready for some fabric cutting ASMR.
All right, so I am still in the midst of cutting all the rainbow out, but I basically am putting what I have on the mannequin for now to make a decision, because the circle skirt, the direction of the rainbow, I was like, oh yeah, I didn't really think about what direction I wanted it to go in. So the skirt looks cute. I think it looks nice kind of in this diagonal direction. I don't think I really had a choice in that matter. As for the rest of it, I was wondering how to do the sleeves, whether I should do them horizontal or vertical, and I would say that horizontal definitely wins because you can see all the colors better versus, you know, it's starting with the blue. You can't even see the, you know, the other colors back there. So I think horizontal is going to be the way to go for here. And for the bodice, I don't know which direction I want them to go in. If I want them to go vertically or if I want them horizontal or diagonal or what. So I guess I'm just going to try to figure that out. So yeah, wish me luck.
Once I decided on a direction for the rainbow pattern on the bodice, I painstakingly lined up all the pieces to pattern match as best I could. It looks really trippy like this, but it does look really, really amazing. Here's all the pieces lined out nicely together before they are constructed.
At this point, I still really have no idea if I'm going to be able to finish it in time or not. How do I camera? There we go. I'm not sure if I'll be able to finish it in time or not. I don't want to overly stress about it, but yeah, I'm gonna do my best. Once I get everything cut out, I think it should take not too long to get everything sewn. So I think I can do it. It's currently 8 p.m. though. So I've been working on this casually. I have been, you know, taking breaks, but I've been working on it casually for about 8 hours now, so I guess I should get back to work.
I took my time carefully pinning all the bodice and lining pieces together while watching those JCS police interrogation videos, which are very addicting and honestly really great background noise for when you're working on something boring like this. Everything ended up lining extremely well and luckily went in the direction I was aiming for. So now it was finally time to start sewing. Except at this point it was very late, so I didn't do that.
Hello, good morning. All right, so today is June 30th and it is currently noon, and I am not getting the rainbow dress done. Definitely not going to get it done for Pride Month, but like stated earlier, that is okay. So yeah, I ended up getting as much as I could done yesterday. The cutting out process ended up taking a lot longer than I was expecting because I don't work with a whole lot of patterns, and I had to kind of think about the direction that the rainbows were going to be going in. So spent a lot of extra time just kind of figuring that out and how I kind of wanted the final thing to look. But I have most of the pieces all cut out, so it's really just a lot of sewing at this point. You can see kind of back here, I just have these circle skirts kind of pinned on. So I have my inner skirts, all my inner skirts, and then the outer skirt. And then I just have some little scrap pieces of fabric to kind of give me an idea of the directional way I wanted the rainbow to go for the sleeves as well as the bodice. But yeah, so today's gonna be day 2 working on this dress, and I'm just going to be doing a lot of sewing today. And I'm not gonna stress that I didn't get my rainbow dress done for Pride Month. As an aggressive bisexual, I am not going to spend the last day of Pride Month suffering to try to finish this dress, okay? I'm just going to live my life and have a good day. But yeah, Cora's coming over today, so I get to spend some time with her, and I'm really excited about that. But yeah, I will keep grinding away on this dress. Now my current estimate is it's gonna be done by maybe July 4th. So I don't know, whatever. I'm gonna have fun with this, and it's gonna be beautiful. So let's get back to work.
Now that I'm nice and rested, I begin sewing the bodice and the lining pieces together. Very, very carefully, because this fabric is so thin and it loves to slip around, so definitely gotta take your time. I cut out all the foam pieces for the booby cups, which includes the outer cup, inner cup, and the top part of the cup. Make sure you mark all your pieces clearly because it can get really confusing otherwise. Orange Lingerie's pattern has great instructions, so make sure you follow them. The foam I use is a fusible foam from Pellon, this type to be exact, and yes, I bought the whole bolt because this stuff is amazing for cosplay and more. To sew the foam together, I'm using a zigzag stitch across the top of the pieces rather than sandwiching them together to create a seam. This makes the foam cup lay nice and flat in the end. You'll end up using the exact same method for the top part of the cup as well. Be sure to match the notch to the seam and start sewing from that point to ensure that everything will fit together properly in the end. Also, make sure you've got those inner and outer sides matching up as well. Be patient and make sure that zigzag stitch is catching both sides of the foam so that it actually is sewing them together. And look at that, now we have a nice foam booby cup. One more to go. Once that was done, it's time to sew the outside of the cup with our pretty rainbow fabric. And for this, we will be using a regular seam with a straight stitch. I used 2 layers of organza so you couldn't see the foam through the sheer fabric. Next, you just top stitch over the top. This will help that curved seam keep its shape. I continue sewing on the top of the cup, and before top stitching, I end up checking to make sure that it's actually fitting nicely around the cup and then make any adjustments as needed. I attach the outer fabric to the foam cup at the top with the right side of the fabric pinned to the wrong side of the foam cup. That way when you flip it, a nice seal is created at the top. Once that's done, I'm just going to zigzag stitch along the edges, which effectively flattens down that foam to make the seam less bulky when attaching it to the bodice. Before I can attach the booby cups I just made, I've got to sew together the outside of the bodice and the lining together at the top in order to trap all those raw edges securely, which I actually didn't compensate for seam allowance wise because last time I used this pattern I just binded the edges. But anyway, I sandwiched them right sides together and sewed along the top edges, excluding the boob cup curves. This is basically how I sewed it, and now I can finally get ready to install those tricky boob cups. All right, so it looks pretty good. To make sure everything is going to lay nice and flat, you top stitch under the cups as well. Also, due to my miscalculations with the seam allowance taken away from attaching a lining, the booby cups didn't quite fit the bodice perfectly, so I had to fold down these edges and hand sew them, but it looks really neat, so whatever. I ended up also sewing some channels and adding featherlight boning to the bodice because the organza was just too thin to hold any shape. I had to also use a heat gun to gently coax the featherlight boning to lay flat instead of being the literal letter C. If you do this though, definitely wear a respirator because it will create bad fumes when heated in such a manner. Before inserting the boning into the channels, I did cut a little curved shape at the ends so the plastic hard bits wouldn't poke through the boning channels or the ever so delicate organza fabric. Now this will give the bodice a nice bit of structure so that it's not going to look all bunchy and icky when actually worn. With the bodice pretty much done at this point, it's now time to move on to the sleeves. I drafted this big sleeve pattern myself and sewed along the top and the bottom, leaving the sides open. Once that was sewn, I turn it right side out and press it really nice and flat with my iron. Next, I top stitch around the top and the bottom from where I just sewed, and I also end up making the channels needed for my elastic to feed through in order to create the ruffles. The way that it's sewn will also ensure that the ruffles are already hemmed, which is fabulous. I used 3/8 of an inch knit elastic to thread on the inside, and I did that using my trusty bodkin. Once that elastic is threaded through, you get these absolutely gorgeous ruffles. Mine are about 1.5 inches, I believe. And look, it's all hemmed and top stitched and looks beautiful. To finish up the sleeves, I sew up the sides using a French seam, which I'm going to get ready to show you how to do next since I use French seams for all of the seams on the skirts as well. It's a great way to hide that raw edge and just looks really, really neat. To start a French seam, first you need to sew the wrong sides of the fabric together. Then you cut down the seam allowance to about 1/4 of an inch or so. And in this case, I'm using pinking shears on this organza to help prevent the crazy fraying. Iron it out nice and flat, and then you are going to get ready to stitch it again. And this time you're going to be stitching it with the right sides together. This method traps the raw edge inside of the seam, and it creates a really nice finish that lays nice and flat. I also ended up top stitching my seam, which isn't necessary, and it looks good either way. I also ended up ironing it down again because, as you can see, it's kind of wobbly with this delicate fabric, so giving it a nice press is going to make sure that it looks especially nice in the end. Doesn't that look so lovely? Now I will continue doing this for all of the other skirts. each one of the skirts needs to be hemmed. I used a narrow hem because makes it a little bit easier to sew along the curve of circle skirts, and it ends up hanging really nicely in the end. It's also a bit more subtle than a larger hem would be. So, this skirt has a total of 5 layers. The inner skirts consist of 2 full circle skirts from both the blue and the pink fabrics, and the outer rainbow skirt is 3 full circle skirts sewn together to create more volume when gathered at the waist. For now, I'm going to baste the skirts together at the waist so I can get a pretty good idea of how it's going to look and fit. All right, awesome. I think it looks great, nice and flouncy, looks gathered lovely, and it's got quite the spin factor, so good. It turned out exactly how I wanted. Now I can get ready to attach the skirt to the bodice. Before pinning, I did serge the waist on all of these skirts so that it wouldn't be as messy, and also keep all the layers lying nice and flat while it is being sewn down to the bodice. I grabbed those sleeves that I finished earlier and pinned them to the bodice like so. I had no solid plan for this, honestly, so I just sewed them on and prayed that it would look nice in the end. Luckily, it did look nice in the end. So at this point, the dress is practically done, and all it needs is a way to actually close it. I chose this brilliant yellow zipper and installed it into the back of the dress. I was going to use an invisible zipper at first, but I actually wanted the color of the zipper to show a bit, just as an extra pop of color, you know? Also, at the very last minute, I decided to add some straps after trying it on. That way I could also wear the sleeves off the shoulder if I wanted to without the whole bodice drooping down, since the sleeves are the only thing really holding it up properly. Also, check out this wicked cool trick I learned for turning out small tubes of fabric. I just use a wooden skewer and catch the fabric like this, and then it is literal magic. Look, isn't that insane? Look how quick and easy it is. Like, oh my god, when I learned this, I was just so freaking happy. But please do be careful, because these skewers might give you or your fabric a splinter. They are a little bit rough. But regardless, look at how dope! So cool. Anyway, here's my rainbow Selkie inspired dress. Thank you so much for tuning into the video, and I really hope you enjoyed the process and the final results of this rainbow Selkie inspired dress. Like and subscribe if you'd like to keep seeing more content from me. Until next time, bye! A big thank you to all of my patrons. Thank you for supporting my work, and a special shout out to Arcal, Brad Shelton, Eric Bolaños, Jamie, John Fillers, Mr. Borland, Nasarella, and Smoothie. Thank you guys so much for supporting me in the fabulous Flower Power tier.